Hi, we are talking about sleep today. We're talking about sleep and how it affects menopause and how menopause also affects our sleep. It's a two-way street. And we are lucky enough to have Dr. Claire Phipps, who has, here she is, she's coming in. Is she coming on? Never easy. Okay, let's see if we can get her on. Accept. All right, let's see if we can do this so we can all get a good night's sleep. We've got her for a really short time this evening. And I have accepted you. I have accepted. I have to add. Let's try a different way. Invite. Okay. I've invited you, Claire. Thanks everyone for being so patient. It's never, ever easy. And we have got so many questions to ask. Yeah, it says the menopause GP is unable to join, so I'm going to try again and invite her on again. Haha! Boom! Well done.
Hello, hi.
Not stressful at all.
Not straightforward. I was going, join.
It's different every time. It's like a Zoom. It's like the olden days of the Zoom. It never happens the same way twice, does it?
No. It was lovely to see you, though.
It's great to see you, Claire. Thanks so much for joining us. And sleep is just a question that a lot of people have a lot of queries about, because obviously it affects us in menopause hugely. And I was just saying before you came on, it seems to be a two-way street. The sleep affects the menopause symptoms, the symptoms affect our sleep, and it's quite hard to know where to start with it. So perhaps, I know personally, waking up at 4 a.m. continually was the first sign that something had changed. So perhaps can you just tell us a little bit more about what's happening in perimenopause and menopause?
Yeah, and one of the really common things we hear and women experience is a change in their quality of sleep or their ability to get to sleep or stay asleep. So that restorative sleep, we know, can really, really change as we progress through the perimenopause. And that can obviously be, like I said, staying asleep, getting to sleep in the first place, or frequent night wakenings, which can be caused by a number of different things. Essentially, what we know is that hormonal changes are impacting or will impact, to a degree, not everything, but to a degree, how we get to sleep, how we stay asleep, and how restful that sleep is. And actually, that is really sort of a decline in our estrogen and also our progesterone levels. And estrogen is really a master regulator of brain function. It's really important in promoting thermoregulation, how cool we are, our mood, also sort of a bit around our sleep architecture, how we sleep as well. So when these hormone levels are changing, actually it can impact on the way that we fall asleep, stay asleep, and remain asleep, if you like. So really, it is the decline or fluctuations, if you like, in these hormone levels that can also then lead to poorer quality sleep and insomnia.
Mm. And so when people come to you in your surgery and they say, this is happening to me, for some people, HRT would improve that. For some people, they wouldn't have HRT. Would you expect, with having something like an HRT patch or the gel or the spray and having, let's say, a Mirena coil, so all those things are quite constant, would you expect to see an improvement in all those qualities that you just mentioned?
Yeah, this is where it becomes very unique and very individual. We're all very, very different when it comes to sleep, and what our triggers are for a poor night's sleep will not be the same as the next person's. So HRT can be really beneficial. When we think about HRT, we need to think about, why are we using it? What symptoms are we controlling? and what impact do they then have on sleep? So is it that we are having hot flushes and night sweats? Well, we know HRT is really great at controlling those. So if we control those, will that mean that we wake less frequently at night? Possibly. We also know that many women find that they wake up catastrophizing at night. So they have worsening anxiety, worsening fearfulness. It's the time when we can't really fix anything, but we overthink. We know that HRT can help with those mood symptoms. So actually, if it's helping with that, are we more likely to get a restful sleep? Possibly. We know also that
My sound has dropped out. Can you hear me?
yeah.
Ah, I can't. I can hear you now. It just dropped out. Okay, so I didn't get to the end of. I didn't get to the end of you, but I might overlap a little bit.
Okay.
So Claire, when we're having those hot flushes and all those things are happening, what's happening to cause that hot flush and that heat?
Yeah, so what we know about estrogen is we mentioned it before is it sort of helps with our thermoregulation. So as we progress through the perimenopause, estrogen is really important in creating the ability for our bodies to cool down and essentially to warm up. That window of thermoregulation narrows ever so slightly. So actually it means we get hotter quicker and probably hotter when we wouldn't have done previously, and that's what estrogen really controls. So when we're thinking about hot flushes and night sweats, we're thinking that thermoregulation, that ability to control our temperature has changed. That makes us more prone to having a hot flush or night sweat. Um, and hot flushes and night sweats, for me, vasomotor symptoms, they're sort of one and the same thing. They can happen day or night, but clearly, if you're having multiple night sweats, that's waking you, might be waking you, making you shivery and cold. Actually, you might be having a cold
Yes.
flush. And then you're drenched in sweat. Actually, you're going to be woken, aren't you? Clearly, you're going to wake up, and it's going to take some time for you to sort of rest and get back to sleep. But that's often what's happening in terms of the estrogen levels.
So what can we do to work around that? What practical things can we do?
So I think it's really important that we talk about sleep hygiene a lot,
Mm.
and this is sort of the golden bullet. And I appreciate that this is easier said than done, but actually, to get a good night's sleep, it's really important to instill routine. It's really easy to get out of a good sleep routine, but it's really hard to get back into one. So if we can start to build the basics of getting into a good sleep routine, that is fundamental. So we look at sleep environment, we look at where you're sleeping. What are you using the bedroom for? We want bedroom for rest and bedroom for sex. We don't want bedroom for watching TV or
Mm.
scrolling. So thinking about
Yes.
the temperature of your room, thinking about your bedding, thinking about before you even get to bed, what's the run up to bed, alcohol, food late at night, spicy foods particularly, caffeine clearly. We want to think about stress reduction. We want to think about potentially medications that might also help, but really foremost in all of this is what can we adapt in our lifestyles that could help, and that's probably a really big thing. And then thinking about medications and HRT potentially.
Mm. So obviously HRT is not the silver bullet, but
Mm.
can we expect that to do as much as it can, or do we have to work around with all this as well? Do we have to say, right, I'm not having caffeine after 12, that makes sense. I'm not having booze tonight, that will make me sleep better. Do we have to do that continually?
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm afraid there's no easy way of
it's
saying that.
true.
It's very unique, don't get me wrong. For some women, they can have caffeine at 9 o'clock at night and they will be fine. But actually, if you're someone that is having trouble with sleep, we really need to have the foundation. It's what I often say is the foundation of nutrition, movement, sleep. that really needs to be there, and it's just as important, if not more so, in many ways than HRT. But
Yeah.
it does need to be there. It's key.
Yeah. And caffeine, people, I personally have a hard stop, 12 o'clock, no more caffeine, and that's it for me. I've been known to sort of sit up all night because I've had an errant cup of splosh at 5 o'clock and then suddenly thought, I cannot sleep at all. It's just irritated. Is it the same with exercise? How about exercising late?
Mm. Again, I think it's really individual. Um, there is some evidence that exercising later in the evening can, sort of bring upon or increase your fight or flight hormones, your adrenaline, your cortisol. Um, to be honest with you, I think we need to look at it with a bit more of a realistic attitude. If you can move and you are moving, and the only time you can move is later on at night, that is better than not
Yeah.
moving at all. So that, for me, is a tick. Um, but I think it depends. Are you someone that has noticed a pattern that if you exercise or move later on during the day, it does keep you up at night? Well, then, are there exercise hacks that we can put in place to shift that movement back a bit in the day? And that might be 5-minute exercise hacks where you're squatting a few times while the kettle boils,
Yeah.
or you're just walking up the stairs a flight rather than kind of, focusing it all towards the end of the day,
Mm.
if that's something that keeps you up at night. And only time will tell, clearly. And obviously, no two people are the same. So it might be that someone can exercise and sleep really well.
Yeah, I had some great advice from Jo Lyle, who's from the Better Menopause, and she said, and I'm sure you've heard her say it too, start planning your sleep when you wake up. And I thought that was brilliant because it is that sort of 8 o'clock, oh my God, I've got to go to sleep. Right, you almost sort of hurrying yourself to sleep. But actually, if you bring that whole mindset back to the beginning of the day and your whole day is working towards a good sleep, it's much more constructive and you've almost got more time to do it. I know that sounds slightly counterintuitive, but
No, it doesn't, and I think it's a really good idea. The only caveat I have to that is for those real chronic insomniacs, actually the thought of sleep and the thought of trying to get a good night's sleep can build that up to make it into a worse situation for you. So I would just be cautious about, what we don't want to do is we don't want anyone overthinking anything at this point. You've got enough going on already. We want to keep it simple. So if you can kind of think about those hacks and you're not someone that's got chronic insomnia, which is very, very different to, poor sleep,
mm,
then that's great. But I would say just try not to overthink it too much and go back to basics with our sleep pattern. No screens, no phones, that sort of thing can really help.
yeah, okay. So actually, I'm sure I know what you're going to say. Are you a fan or not of sleep monitors
Mm,
and all that bananas?
yeah,
Because
all that
I wonder
malarkey.
if it makes us into quite obsessive, and then you worry because you say, oh, I haven't slept enough, and then you're worrying about going to sleep.
Yeah, and I think it depends on your personality, doesn't it? I think if you're someone that likes to track something and it actually makes you calmer, then that's going to be a good thing. But I think it varies. I personally think another thing to track is not something that most of us need in our lives. Um, Particularly if it doesn't always give us accurate or sensible advice. So I personally would veer away from things that you have to kind of look at and analyze, and again go back to basics. But if you're someone that really enjoys that, well, you know, who am I to say don't do it?
Yeah. So each to their own. Okay.
Each their own.
Can we talk about stress?
Mm.
Because at midlife, we are the jam in the sandwich. We've got aging parents, we've got teenagers, maybe even small children. I have a 12-year-old and 20-year-old, so I have a span. We've got our jobs, we've got our household, we've got a million stresses and everything else. How can we manage that? And does the stress exacerbate poor sleep?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think we can't underestimate the impact of stress not only on our perimenopausal symptoms, but on our general overall health outcomes
Yeah.
too. And if we can, even just find a hack to take away some of that stress, and look, it's not always possible, But if we can just try and delegate a little bit, then I think reducing that cortisol, reducing that adrenaline, and those fight and flight hormones is only going to be beneficial in the long run. But look, it's not easy. It's a really difficult time of life with lots of balls in the air, and we need to be realistic about what we can and can't do. But if we can just give something up, or ask someone else to do something and delegate, I think reducing our stress would be helpful. But it's not always
Yeah,
possible.
of course. And a sort of a general question, which I think that no one often asks, which is, do we really need tons and tons and tons of sleep? Because I remember hearing an expert saying, actually, we need the same amount of sleep as we did when we were 9. It's just that all the irritants of life and chemicals and caffeine and everything else, stress, means that we don't sleep as long. In your opinion, would you say we need it or we don't need it?
I think we need it.
Mm,
I think it's really important. We know that sleep is when our brain recharges, it fixes things, our body fixes ourselves. It's vital, actually. And we all know that even with one poor night's sleep, how rubbish we are the next day. Imagine that over and over and over again, the cumulative effects of insomnia on us. Actually, we know that that's got poorer health outcomes. So I think sleep is vital.
yeah. And actually, that was one of our questions, which was, does poor sleep lead to long-term health issues, for instance, insomnia or chronic fatigue?
So we don't have the evidence for chronic fatigue, but yes, if your sleep is disrupted on a fairly regular basis, and there's evidence in shift workers, for example, then we know that they're more likely to have you're more likely to suffer from infections. Your immune system isn't quite as good. It's tenuous links, but we do know that sleep is restorative, not just for our mind and body, but also just for our general health, our long-term health outcomes. So yeah, I think that there is evidence that suggests that we do need good sleep for good long-term health outcomes, and for good cognitive function
Mm.
too.
Is there a case to, and I know I'm skating on thin ice because you're diving off, but I've just got two more questions, three more questions, tiny ones. Is there a case to say that when we say, I didn't sleep last night, God, was awake all night, actually we were asleep for a lot longer than we thought?
Yeah, so I think what we forget is it's really common to have frequent wakings at night.
Yeah.
That is normal. What we don't want is we don't want those frequent wakings to be long. We want you to be able to get to sleep as quickly as possible after you've woken up, whether you've gone to pee or whether or not that's just rolling over in bed. But it's very likely you've had episodes of deeper sleep and what we call REM sleep, which is the rapid eye movement sleep, restorative sleep. So it's very likely you've had those chunks of time. But actually, because you've had some consistent wakings, you almost get it into your head that you've not slept well. That may well be the case, but often if you've had chunks of sleep, that's really, really good as well.
Mm-hmm. And two more questions, just literally two more. Okay, magnesium, is that helpful? Should we all be taking magnesium? And actually, should our husbands be taking magnesium? Is it just women?
Well,
Because they keep us awake too.
yeah, they do. I think we've got to remember that the limited evidence and the limited robust evidence behind magnesium, but it is, anecdotally, the magnesium glycinate is meant to be very helpful for sleep. Um, I think if you're going to be taking anything like this, do just double check with your doctor, or even a nutritionist as well, who will be able to give you good brands, good doses, because we don't want you just going off and buying any old
Yeah,
magnesium. We want it to be the right sort. But yes, it can be helpful. It's something I do recommend women take. It can also be helpful for joint pain as well in the menopause.
yeah, brilliant. And my very last question, which came in, which made me sort of chuckle, because I sort of had my own answer for it, which was, does our drop in hormones make us snore? I think it might be down to Prosecco, but I'm just answering for a friend. What do you think?
Oh, I think that's a really long, a long, it's got a long answer. Um, I think snoring is probably multifaceted when it comes to the perimenopause. It's probably the fact that our hormone levels are fluctuating, so therefore our larynxes are probably not, they're a little bit looser. Actually, that makes our tongue fall back, could make us snore. There's also potentially the weight gain issue as well. If our if we're gaining a little bit of weight, we're more prone to snoring.
Hmm.
I don't think there's one thing that causes it. There's probably a number of different reasons.
Hmm. Have you ever done the lip taping?
Yes. And mindful breathing, that's one thing that can be really helpful. So if you're a snorer, have a look at mindful breathing exercises, because if we breathe well, we can really reduce lots of our stress, lots of our other symptoms. And it doesn't sound like it makes any sense, but breathing well is again another foundation of good
Yeah.
menopause care.
Yeah, it is. It really, really is. And Dr. Olivia, her name's just escaped me. I can put a link in it. She talks a lot about breathing, and it is a huge game changer for so many people. And it sort of sounds a little bit like, well, that's not going to work for me. But actually, it really, really does. And also to stop your mind racing,
Yeah.
because I think rumination for our midlife brains is chucked into the mix is like a hand grenade, isn't it?
Yeah. Breath work, I can't recommend highly enough. It's fantastic.
Now, just tell us the link into your Instagram with your sister, because that is also slightly related,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, so my sister is a menopause yoga teacher and a trauma-informed yoga teacher, and she does a lot of breath work and a lot of menopause breath work. And you can find her on the Yoga Crow. You can also find us together at the Menopause Sisters. But there's lots of YouTube videos she's got on breath work which are free, and I would just look at them and just see if you can give it a go.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. It's sort of not my didn't used to be my bag, and now I realise the benefits are enormous.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Claire. We've flown through all those questions. Thank you for your time. I'll put the links to so Claire is the Menopause GP on Insta, and the two other Instagram accounts that you've just mentioned. I will put links in the captions below. And thank you for your time. It's been absolutely brilliant.
You're welcome. Nice to
See you
see you.
soon. Okay,
Bye
lots of love. Bye.
bye.
Thanks everyone for joining. Bye.